With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number 877-973-7425 should you wish to be on the program. Now, real important, may God help my email inbox. So whenever people subscribe, I get a notification, and it's been a little bit intense for the last 72 hours. I'm sending out tomorrow my little cookbook that y'all have all asked me to prepare. So it's my gravy recipe is in there, how I smoke my turkey, how I make my turkey brine, how I do my cornbread dressing, how I do the appetizers. I got it all. It's like 41 different recipes in this package of stuff that I'm sending out, adding some extras in there as well for you. So, for example, I've got my barbecue sauce recipe in there. I got the baked potato soup recipe, how I convert the turkey into gumbo. The milk braised pork loin, it's actually a recipe I stole from Cook's Illustrated, but it's incredible. My pulled pork recipe, how I smoke my Boston butt. My wife's candied yams with bourbon recipe. How to make fresh green bean casserole, how to make the canned green bean casserole. How to make real, authentic, good Southern mac and cheese baked in the oven. How to do the sour cream biscuits we serve and the pumpkin bread we serve. And then I got a buttermilk pie, a bourbon pecan pie, a chocolate pie, a pumpkin pie, a lemon meringue pie, a sweet potato pie. I got my mother-in-law sugar cookie recipe. I've got the Krispy Kreme bread pudding recipe, the ginger snap recipe, and the confetti cookie recipe in there. Then I got how to make breakfast for everybody who's coming to your house, how to time it so that you can feed your family breakfast while you're working on the main courses. Even the bacon-wrapped jalapeno recipe is in there. All you have to do if you want to get them is you subscribe to the recipe list, and you do that by texting the word recipe, singular, not plural, recipe, to 33777. Text the word recipe to 33777. What's happening is I'm going to send you back a link, and you click that link. It'll ask for your email address. There's no charge, no fee. You pay nothing. You put in your email address. Tomorrow we will send out the recipes. It'll be worth it. So text recipe to 33777. You maybe find some new recipes that you will use with your family, and they will become your family recipes. And you'll do what I did, is you'll make the adjustments to the recipes that your family likes, and they'll become your personal recipes. So all of my recipes tend to be derived from other people's recipes, and then I tweak them to my family's tastes, and they become our family. So now you can have my families, and they can become your families. Now, that's also a hem and a haw to avoid talking about the not-so-great debate. But we got to talk about the debate because the debate is coming tonight in Miami, Florida. Ron DeSantis will be in the center of the stage with Nikki Haley on one side, Vivek Ramaswamy on the other side. Chris Christie and Tim Scott will make the outer edges of the debate. I can guarantee to you that last night's elections are going to be an issue. And I suspect, I can already tell from their social media feed, DeSantis and Haley are going to try to make the case that Republicans, we lost in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. We're going to lose in 2024. The common denominator is Trump. We need a new way. I don't think Trump voters will care. Look, Trump voters have already decided this was all about abortion, so we need to abandon abortion. But you can't abandon abortion because pro-life voters generate more votes for the GOP than Democrats get from Black, Hispanic, and Asian voters combined. So you can't ditch that. And in some cases, Trump helps. He helps with the white working class. He helps pull over some Hispanic and Black voters, we think. But in some cases, he hurts. He does cost the GOP the suburbs now in a way the GOP used to win the suburbs. The GOP used to lock in the suburbs, and now they lose them, largely because those voters don't like Trump. They replace them in presidential elections with white working class voters, but those voters don't turn out in off-year elections, which costs the GOP, which is what we saw last night in 2022. Abortion definitely is a factor in some places, but when you look at Virginia, the 15-week compromise seems to be the sweet spot for the GOP to go. It doesn't alienate voters. Yeah, Virginia Democrats picked up the House and the Senate, but they barely picked them up by 1% of the statewide vote. There was no wave based on abortion. College voters turned out, but they didn't turn out disproportionately high in Virginia. So the GOP appears to have mitigated those issues and lost due to redistricting more than anything else. So it looks like Glenn Youngkin has found a path forward for the GOP when it comes to abortion. You can't abandon the life issue, but you can compromise at 15 weeks, and it doesn't alienate a lot of voters. But this debate tonight, is anyone really going to care? I have a sneaking suspicion that voters are more rapidly beginning to make up their mind. And in making up their mind, it doesn't matter. No one's going to persuade them. I mean, just think about Donald Trump's voters for a minute. And this isn't to belittle them. It's not to pick on them or anything. But Donald Trump's voters have a different way of explaining 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023. The election was stolen in 2020. It was about abortion in 2022, 2023. It was the typical 2018 off-year election. 2022 was an anomaly. They have a different way of looking at it. So they're not going to be persuaded by Haley and DeSantis saying it's Trump. Trump's the common denominator. We got to change Trump. Meanwhile, the people who don't like Trump, they're not going to be persuaded that it's anything else. They're going to be persuaded it's Trump. All of this is to say, I need to confess I'm starting to become a little bit of a pessimist about 2024. I think Donald Trump can win in 2024. That's not why I'm pessimistic, by the way. That's not why I'm pessimistic. I think he can win. My pessimism comes from this. I think that though Trump can win, he's least likely to win. Trump's voters are convinced only Trump can win. I'm actually in an email thread with some folks right now, and the Trump's voters are all only Trump can win. There's no way Haley or DeSantis or anyone else could win. They're convinced of this. Meanwhile, the non-Trump people are convinced only Trump can lose. I actually think Trump can win. I just think that the amount of energy and money spent to get him to win costs the GOP other winnable Senate seats, like John Tester's seat in Montana. You spend so much money to get Trump across the finish line, that doesn't necessarily get the Republican in Montana across the finish line. It deprives money of get-out-the-vote operations for the Senate seats, among other things. It deprives messaging. And then you pour all this money into a guy who can only serve 4 more years as opposed to any of the others who could serve 8 years. But here's the problem for the GOP now. You've got these 5 people on stage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people on stage. Scott doesn't matter. Christie doesn't matter at this point. Vivek Ramaswamy doesn't really matter. This is Nikki Haley versus Ron DeSantis. And these guys are going to fight each other, try to destroy each other, all for second place, hoping that they can consolidate the field out of Iowa, hoping they can consolidate the field in New Hampshire, hoping they can consolidate a field that if Donald Trump gets convicted of a crime, he's probably going to be the nominee. I think if Donald Trump gets carted off to jail, Donald Trump becomes the Republican nominee guaranteed. I think it's more and more likely he becomes the Republican nominee anyway. And my concern really is the amount of energy that has to be used to get him across the finish line that can't then be used to save the Senate or save the House and win the Senate. I think any of these candidates could beat Joe Biden. In fact, the polling shows They're more likely to. But the Republicans have now designed a primary process where the candidate most likely to win the primary is the candidate least likely to win the general election. It's a suicide pact for the GOP because Republican voters want someone who agrees with them more than they want someone who can win. Now, I will tell you, I got a very angry email from someone a couple weeks ago when I was talking about this. They said, how can you say this? Well, of course, we need somebody to agree with us. We're never going to win if we have inauthentic candidates, blah, 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 blah. And you totally missed my point. What the polling suggests is that Republican voters want someone who agrees with them on everything. So the guy who agrees with you on 70 or 80% of the stuff, you don't want. The guy who agrees with you on 90% of the stuff, you got to hold your nose for. And that's the problem. I don't know. The number of people who encounter me all the time, they say, hey, I love your show. I don't agree with you on everything. But I'm fine with that. It's like, that's my wife. My wife does agree with everything I say. But she still's married to me. The problem is, at the presidential level, you want the divorce. I love your show, but I disagree. I don't agree with you all the time. Let's get a divorce because you can't be my presidential candidate. That's the problem the GOP has is it's that 80, 90% agreement. Well, that's still not good enough for me. I want someone who agrees with me on everything. So you would get transactionally, if you're a Trump supporter, you'd get 70, 80, maybe even 90% of what you want from a Ron DeSantis, 70, 80% of what you want from a Nikki Haley or Tim Scott. But you can't vote for them because you need the guy who supports you 10%, 100%. But that guy alienates the suburban voters in the swing states that you need to win the general election. And you're okay with that because you got his back, he's got your back. We're okay losing because all the other guys are just as bad as Joe Biden, even though you'd get 80, 90% of what you want and win the suburbs. The GOP is now a suicide pact. The party is divided against itself. A party, like a nation, like a house, divided against itself cannot stand. The Democrats have made the cause the candidate. The Democrats are advancing progressivism with whoever their nominee is, whether it's Joe Biden, whether it's a cadaver, whether it's an invisible man, whether it's Pete Buttigieg, whether it's Gavin Newsom, you name the Democrat, they're going to advance the progressive agenda. With the Republicans, they don't care about the agenda, they care about the man, and they want the man to agree with them, and they got to vote for that man or they can't vote at all. And there's half of the party that's like, well, we can't vote for that guy. So the GOP has decided it wants to lose nationally and win regionally, except winning regionally doesn't get you in off-year elections, and that's the problem. They can sort this out, by the way. The GOP can sort this out. They might need a therapist and some alcohol, but they can sort this out. They can sort this out, but they just have to be willing to sort it out. And frankly, it's on the other candidates to make the case. Trump's got 100% name ID. He's got 50% plus of the party supporting him. It's the other guys who have to make the case. And I would tell, like the DeSantis people, you've made the case you're going to be sufficiently Trumpy, but you haven't made the case for who you actually are. And that's part of a problem. It's part of a problem. At the same time, Marjorie Taylor Greene made a point yesterday, and I'm not a huge fan, but she made a point that Republicans they don't like each other. Democrats don't like each other either. But the Democrats recognize they got to have power to be able to affect what they want. And a lot of Republicans don't recognize that anymore. You can't get anything done if you don't have power. Rashida Tlaib hates a number of the Democrats. You got Jews in the Democratic Party. Of course she hates them. She hates Jews. But she also understands she's got to work with them to get power so that she can advance her agenda and they can advance their agenda. On the Republican side, Matt Gaetz doesn't need power. Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't need power. They just need a platform and they can raise money. They don't need to get anything done to advance their agenda because their agenda is self-promotion. It's not an agenda that requires power to get anything done. And a lot of Republicans right now, they're in it to own the left. You can aggravate the left and make them mad from the minority. You don't need to be in the majority. So Republicans at some point have to decide, do we actually want the power to get things done? But a lot of Republicans tell themselves, we get power. They're just going to screw us, not them. We're not going to get anything done. There's a lack of trust with the party establishment. There's a lack of trust with the party leaders. There's a lot of trust for Trump's base with Trump, but no one else. And then those who don't like Trump don't trust him. The party needs a therapist. The party needs like a wild night in Vegas together and a therapist so they can tell stories and like each other again. And right now they just all hate each other. So unless the entirety of the Republican Party is going to go on a bender together in Las Vegas and get a therapist, the party's going to keep hating each other. And even with Joe Biden's horrible polling, that helps him because, again, it doesn't matter who the Democratic candidate is. For the Democrats, it's the cause and the power that they want. Doesn't matter the candidate. For the GOP, they're fighting over a candidate, not a cause. Guys, if you're a small, mid-sized business, you're struggling with HR issues, you have employees not showing up, or you got to do a termination, you need onboarding of employees, maybe there's a sexual harassment complaint. You want an HR manager. You don't want to be the bad guy with your employees. Bambee can play the role of HR for you. $99 a month, available by phone, email, real-time chat. They do onboardings, terminations. They help your team members get to peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations, regardless of which state. They're great. Now, they're U.S.-based. You got somebody to talk to who's dedicated to your team. They give you access to HR expertise, and they add personal touches. So even though they're outsourced by your company, they really feel like they're a part of your team. That matters. Go to Bambee.com right now. Type in Eric Erickson under podcast. When you sign up, it'll help my show. Bambee.com, 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 Eric Erickson in the podcast tab.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Greetings, conversationalists. It is Eric Erickson here. My friend Ginger just texted me. She says, you're so right. She says, I was speaking to a group of Republican women, and we all need to work together whether we like each other or not. The Democrats will rally around a dead rat. That is so true. Remember Mel Carnahan against John Ashcroft. Mel Carnahan died in a plane crash. He was losing to John Ashcroft. And in the Senate race in Missouri, he died in a plane crash tragically on a barnstorming the state on the campaign trail. And they decided to elect his wife, who became the senator. John Ashcroft became became the attorney general as a result of that. But Carnahan was losing until he died, and then he won. Democrats will rally around a dead rat. Absolutely. Yellow dog Democrat. Remember, there's no such thing. No one's ever said I'm a yellow dog Republican. It's a yellow dog Democrat. And the phrase comes from the South. I would rather vote for a yellow dog as a Democrat than vote for a Republican. Democrats want the power to get things done. Republicans just want to be right. And that's fine if you just want to be right, but you're going to lose a lot of elections because you're unwilling to compromise and say, okay, this guy gives me 70, 80% of what I want, I'll go with him. And here ultimately is the problem. There are parts of the country where the guy who agrees with you 100% is going to win. And I had to learn this too. Back in Jim DeMint and the Senate Conservative Fund, I adore them. But also there are parts of the country where a Jim DeMint, a Ted Cruz, a you name the conservative, they're not going to win. You got to have a moderate candidate in some parts of the states, and you can get a real conservative in other parts, and you just hope to get more conservatives than the moderate Republicans who can then let the conservatives run the agenda. But, sometimes you got to compromise in parts of the country and let the more moderate guy get through because he can win in the conservative camp. That's just the reality. The reality is also that you got all these banks around the country that are their credit's being downgraded. They're being downgraded. Some of them are closing. They had the Farmers Bank in Iowa. I forget the exact name of it. Shut down last week. Swiss America's been warning about this stuff. They've been sounding the alarm about the secret war on cash, the all assault on our freedoms. With soaring interest rates squeezing the economy, banks are starting to collapse. Banks are getting their downgrade. Swiss America wants to educate you on how to protect your hard-earned assets now. You can go read their report, The Secret War on Cash. Your copy's free by calling or texting 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency. It's spreading. Go read The Secret War on Cash. It's free. You just mention Eric Erickson when you call or text 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646, or visit SwissAmerica.com/Eric. That's SwissAmerica.com/ERICK, or call or text my name to 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I'm happy to have. So I got to tell you about a funny thing that happened to me last night. I had to go to the grocery store. My beloved Publix. Those of you who don't have Publix grocery stores, you can't appreciate how wonderful they are. But so I don't like to use the self-checkout line because the people with a filled up cart like to use the self-checkout line instead of standing in line like normal people for checkout. You got a million things and you want to be the one to check them out. And you hold everybody else out who's only got two things. I had 2 jugs of milk and a gift card. And I went through the regular line because there was a guy in front of me who was an employee, and he was just getting a bucket of fried chicken. So I'm like, I'll do this one. Well, then there's this guy behind me. He kind of looks like my buddy Drew, and he's behind me, and all he's got like oat milk and fish fillets. So I'm like, yeah, oat milk. Do you know where oat milk comes from? Do you know where oat milk comes from? Have you ever seen a picture of the Quaker Oat Man without a shirt on? Mm-hmm. Yes. Nonetheless. So I'm bagging up my stuff. I'm helping the cashier. And the guy comes and like stands right next to me. And he just stares at me with this kind of look on his face. Like, why are you here? I mean, the man is like, if you put like a 12-inch ruler between us, like it would like more than poke him because he was that close to me. And he's just staring at me. And I'm like getting my groceries. I kind of smile, nod my head and leave. And I'm getting in my car and he comes out right behind me with his fish fillets and his bucket of oat milk harnessed from the nipples of the Quaker Oat Man. And he gets in his car and his car's next to me. It's a Subaru. I'm like, you are a progressive. You don't like me. That's why. I'm like, come on, dude, seriously? I mean, maybe I'm reading more into this, but you're standing like less than 12 inches from me with the smirk on your face with your oat milk and your fish fillets, and you get in your Subaru Outback, and I'm like, yeah, the liberal. You're a progressive. You don't like me, and you're trying to just be that guy. Why are people like this? It's like the people who, now this is a sensitive subject for some close to me, who hit reply all. Hitting reply all is a choice, and it is typically the wrong choice to make. Those of you who know what I'm talking about, and you know I'm right. Now, we will move on. Because I will get in trouble if I stay on that topic. Let's go to the phones. Matthew, you can save me from myself before I get in trouble. Welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you? Good.
What's going on?
I was curious to know what your thinking is about Vivek Ramaswamy. I've kind of followed him a little bit, and he seems to me to be like Trump on steroids. I like his attitude and his way of talking a whole lot. I like Trump. I have been a Trump supporter, but I like Vivek a lot more because his attitude's a little different. He doesn't have a big mouth.
Okay.
He
go ahead.
His stance is like super, like I said, Trump 2.0. I mean.
So I actually I've got strong opinions on Vivek. I've tried very hard to give you the benefit of the doubt because I've liked a lot of what he said, but I've come to the conclusion myself that Vivek is not in this to win the presidency. He doesn't intend to win the presidency. He's using himself as a proxy for Donald Trump. He and the Trump kids are really good friends, some of them. I think it's he and Eric Trump have a good relationship. He actually reached out to the Trump team before getting into the race, and he's using himself as a proxy for Trump. He's there to attack DeSantis. In fact, Vivek, before he got into the race, actually told a bunch of people he was running to stop DeSantis, not to actually get elected. So Vivek is in the race. He's actually got a couple of people who are working for him who worked for Trump in the last campaign. They're helping him. So he's there as a proxy for Trump. He wants, if Trump gets the nomination, a lot of people say, oh, he's running to be VP for Trump. No, he's running to be cabinet secretary for Trump. A friend of mine in the U.S. Senate says Vivek Ramaswamy is running the most expensive race ever for a cabinet position. And I think that's accurate. He's not running to be president. He doesn't bring anything to the table as a vice presidential candidate, but he could be a cabinet secretary. And he wants to earn the loyalty of Trump by being the guy who sabotages the other candidates. There's no reason for him at this point to be in the race. Consider this. Vivek Ramaswamy's negatives have gone up higher than all the other candidates combined in just 2 months. He, for a lot of the older Republican voters, comes off as a know-it-all. And then his foreign policy positions are terrible. In fact, I guarantee, I'm going to be disappointed if this doesn't happen. In fact, Charlie, you should flag this for a See I Told You So moment, because I am willing to bet someone on that debate stage tonight, probably named Nikki Haley, goes after Vivek Ramaswamy hard on Israel. Because he's come out since the October 7th attack and said we should not fund Israel. We shouldn't give Israel aid for the Iron Dome system. He's come out pretty aggressively against helping the Israeli government against Hamas. And I think Nikki Haley, she's torn into him twice on this. She's going to do it a third time. And this time she's got a bloody war in the Middle East against Israel to take to him on this. I suspect that's going to happen. Now, I think the big clash tonight on the debate stage is going to be Nikki Haley versus Ron DeSantis. They're probably going to ignore everyone else on stage and go after each other. Why? Because Haley has been gaining ground in Iowa. One of my chief frustrations with the DeSantis people is that they just refuse to accept the reality that the Haley surge is real. They say it's imaginary, it's concocted by the media. It's not true. No. I can tell you it's true, and you know how I know it's true? Because the DeSantis team has started spending money attacking Nikki Haley. They wouldn't be attacking Nikki Haley if her surge wasn't real. They'd be ignoring her like they did in the past. And then they say, well, the Trump team's ignoring her. Yeah, the Trump team doesn't have to attack her because she's in third place. DeSantis is in second place. If she gets into second place, they'll start attacking her. In New Hampshire, the Trump team is attacking Nikki Haley because she is in second place in New Hampshire. Her surge is real. There's no reason to deny it's real. To deny it's real is to ignore it. To ignore it is to lose to her. The DeSantis team itself is not ignoring it. They're treating it as real because they're attacking her, and that matters greatly. That's a big deal. Now, where does all of this flow? Well, to the debate stage tonight, you're going to see this fight. Chris Christie and Tim Scott are going to fight to get on the debate stage. It'll be easier for Chris Christie. He's more bombastic. He's more willing to throw a punch. He's more willing to interrupt. Here's the problem with Tim Scott. I love Tim Scott, but Tim Scott is a really nice guy. Just admit it. He may not be your cup of tea, but Tim Scott is a really nice guy. And the problem for Tim Scott by being a really nice guy is it pains Tim Scott to be a jerk. He comes across as deeply uncomfortable being a jerk. Listen, this is one of the reasons I appreciate Tim Scott. I don't like being the turd in the punch bowl either. I sometimes am and sometimes have to be, but I don't like it. It's not comfortable to me to go after people, to pick fights with people, to criticize people. I try to be respectful even if I disagree with someone. It's way easier behind the microphone to lob a bomb than it is to do it in person to someone just because it's not comfortable. They're there. You're making them uncomfortable. You're making yourself uncomfortable. I don't like to do it. I'm not a confrontational person in that way. Neither is Tim Scott. And so when he does it tonight, because he's going to have to do it to get airtime, he's going to come across as uncomfortable. And he's still going to come across as the nice guy. And in coming across as an uncomfortable nice guy, it's not going to help him because a lot of people's criticisms of Tim Scott is that he's too nice to run. He's a little too precious to run. They don't want him roughed up. They like him. And they also don't think he can throw the punches that need to be thrown at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So when he does it tonight, I don't think it actually helps him. I think it hurts him even more. Vivek is going to get a word in edgewise. He'll interrupt. Chris Christie will interrupt. But this is a debate between Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, and I expect them to fight each other. The DeSantis campaign, listen, don't at me, DeSantis people. You did mischaracterize, the campaign did mischaracterize Nikki Haley's position on bringing people, Palestinians from Gaza to the United States. They did mischaracterize it. And she's going to go after him for it, I guarantee you. She's going to say, you, to the extent you're being like Donald Trump, you're misrepresenting the truth like he did. It's time to move on from all that to something new. Nikki Haley's problem is this, and I love Nikki Haley. She's a personal friend. But her problem in the Republican primary is this. Nikki Haley plays well in a general election. In fact, Nikki Haley dominates Joe Biden in the polling. Nikki Haley outperforms every other Republican candidate against Joe Biden. You want to beat Joe Biden? She makes sense. Why? Because suburban women will come to Nikki Haley. Suburban men will come to Nikki Haley, and she won't actually lose a significant portion of the white working class because they hate Joe Biden so much they'll still vote for her. The Trump team says this isn't true. You can say it's not true. You can say the polling is wrong, but the same polling that shows Donald Trump leading the GOP right now is the polling that shows Nikki Haley beating Joe Biden the best. Don't pick half the poll and ignore the other half. The problem with Nikki Haley, though, is she can't win the Republican primary because the Trump supporters don't like her in the Republican primary. And she has a hard time. They don't trust her. Nikki Haley doesn't consolidate the field. Ron DeSantis pulls from Trump and from others. Nikki Haley pulls from the non-Trump people, but not from the Trump people. So if Ron DeSantis gets out of the race, Donald Trump benefits more than Haley. If Haley gets out of the race, DeSantis benefits more than Trump because the Haley supporters will go to DeSantis in a way that DeSantis supporters won't go to her. Now, that's fixable. She can fix this. She's only got a couple months to fix it, but she's got to fix it. Haley supporters, don't out me. You don't at me. You know I'm telling you the truth. This is why when I still look at the race, if it's not Trump, this isn't an endorsement because, I love Nikki Haley, but I also see the writing on the wall that DeSantis builds a non-Trump coalition better than Haley does. And Haley, over the next couple of months, needs to put time and effort into changing that dynamic. And I don't know if she can, but I think she can try, and I wouldn't discount Nikki Haley because she wins races. And that's why tonight is going to be a fist fight, metaphorically speaking, not real, between DeSantis and Haley. It's got to be. And DeSantis, I think, comes across as somewhat awkward being pugilistic. So does Haley. I think actually they're fine with each other, but they've got to make this fight, and they get it. They're political people enough to know that this isn't personal between them. That's why Tim Scott is going to be even more awkward for him to get an word in edgewise. And he's going to come across as even more out of sorts and awkward by trying to do it when those two are fighting each other. And then Nikki Haley, of course, going after Vivek Ramaswamy. Listen, I'll put it to you this way. I think Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis personally don't dislike each other. I think everybody on that debate stage hates Vivek Ramaswamy. They think he's a poser, a pretender, and a proxy for Trump. They don't think he's an honest broker. They think he's a liar. They really don't like him. They really, really don't like him. But everyone else on that stage, behind the scenes when the lights are off, can stand each other in a room and get along civilly with each other. And that's the problem with the debate stage tonight. That and, well, the fact that Donald Trump's not going to be there. He's going to do counter-programming with Sarah Sanders, the governor of Arkansas, hoping the media will cover him more than they cover the debate. We'll see how that works. Now, I got to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them for less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. You put in my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, at EdenPureDeals.com. Get 3 of them. What are they? They're air purifiers. They're filterless, so you don't get a filter subscription. You don't have to keep sending money to Eden Pure once you get these things. You just get the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, plug it in. It gets rid of the dust and the pollen floating in the air. I don't use it as an air purifier, to be honest with you, though. I use it as an odor eliminator. I travel with one. They're small. You can keep it in your bag. It's a little bigger than your hand. You can plug it in with a USB cord into your car. I've used it in rental cars where the people who had the car before me smoked and the car stunk. It wipes out smoke odors. It wipes out litter box odors, general pet odors, wet dog odors, cooking odors, musty odors. It wipes out those odors. You plug it into the wall. You plug it in a car with a USB cord, and it just works. I've been in hotels that used them. I was in a doctor's office the other day that used one. EdenPureDeals.com. You get 3 of them for less than $200. You're saving $200. You get free shipping. You go to Eden, like the Garden of Eden, Pure as the driven snow, EdenPureDeals.com. And then you'll see a discount code box. You put in my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, and you get 3 of them for less than $200.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
There is some breaking news happening. Looks like U.S. authorities and Brazilian government authorities have stopped a Hezbollah attack on Jews and Israeli citizens in Brazil. Details are just starting to come in about that. But then there's something else. 3 individuals have been arrested by the U.S. Justice Department. They were operating a high-end brothel network in Massachusetts and Virginia. Their clientele included elected officials, military officers, and government contractors with security clearances. Pick a profession, Joshua Levy, acting U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, said. They're probably represented in the case. Han Lee, 41 of Cambridge, Massachusetts, James Lee, 68 of Torrance, California, and Jum Young Lee, 30 of Dedham, Massachusetts, have been charged with conspiracy to coerce and entice to travel to engage in illegal sexual activity. They are expected to appear in federal court in Boston Wednesday. The 3 individuals transported women and advertised them online for pre-approved clients to choose from through several websites and ran the brothels out of apartments they rented. Now listen to this. Listen. These were doctors, lawyers, accountants, elected officials, executives of high-tech companies, pharmaceutical companies, military officers, government contractors, professors, scientists. They are the men who fuel this commercial sex ring. The FBI agent, said about 20 sex buyers were interviewed in connection with the multi-year investigation. One customer described getting a text of available options at a brothel, including the women available. Now, what's notice here, okay, boomers, I'm talking to you. The prospective sex buyers in the scheme had to respond to a survey and provide their driver's license photo, their employer information, their credit card information, and pay a monthly fee to be a part of the sex ring. Dudes, come on. Fake ID. You had one back in college? You're handing over your credit card and your driver's license and your employer information to an illegal sex ring? This is like the Ashley Madison thing. I was stunned at the number of people who used their real email addresses. Come on. I'll tell you the big one that one day is going to break is a hack of OnlyFans. You know, the OnlyFans website. Someday the user account information there is going to break, and you will be stunned at the number of people in your church who have an OnlyFans account. I'm sorry. I realize that the desire for some men to have sex, that they're willing to send their driver's license and credit card to an online sex ring of dudes from China just so they could pick out some prostitute in some seedy apartment somewhere. And now the FBI has all of your information and your photo ID and your credit card and all the transactions, and you're probably going to go to jail. Learn to figure out a way to be anonymous, or hey, better yet, don't do it. Your sins will find you out. So don't do it. It's one thing for a 20-something idiot to do something like this, but these are professionals in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who are doing this. The Gen Xers and the Boomers, and they're going to get carted off to jail as part of this. Don't do it, people. Don't do this sort of stuff. It's wrong. You're supporting human trafficking, and you're going to get carted off to jail as a result. You gave your driver's license. Good gracious. Some people, they're not thinking, well, they're thinking just wrong brain.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.